Now, whatever you think about what makes a healthy diet, you can throw that out of the window, probably, if it's based on conventional wisdom. And the reason isn't because conventional wisdom is necessarily incorrect, but it's because what is a healthy diet for someone with a dysbiosis is not the same as what is a healthy diet for a normal human with no gut dysbiosis. In the same way that what you would recommend as daily physical exercise for a normal human would not be the same recommendation for someone with a muscle tear. You would not recommend the exact same thing. In fact, you might find that the recommendation for a healthy person would be extremely detrimental for someone with a muscle tear if it was, for example, to go to the gym and lift weights. So the diet you want to eat when you have a dysbiosis, and this is something you can eat even when you don't have a dysbiosis, so you don't need to be concerned about that. It needs to be a low fermentable diet, and one that's devoid of likely sources of inflammation via the route of basically an adaptive immune response to antigens in that food. So what do I mean? Well, reducing or eliminating fiber from the diet will be a good thing. If you have lots of bad microbes in your gut and you reduce the fuel for the bad microbes, the fiber, that's a good thing. Sugar also. How is that a fuel for microbes? Doesn't sugar get absorbed in the proximal digestive tract, the upper small intestine? Well, firstly, no. Secondly, the problem is that you have dysbiosis in your small intestine. And if you're in any doubt of that fact about sugar, just consider that when you do a SIBO test, so you're testing for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and you want to test the methane or hydrogen output of the flora in the small intestine, what do? You take 50 grams of glucose. Sometimes it's lactose, sometimes it's lactulose or whatever, but you can take 50 grams of glucose and elicit the response, hence proving that if you have a small intestinal dysbiosis, which I think almost everyone who has a dysbiosis has, consuming sugar can fuel that dysbiosis. So fiber, sugar, and unfortunately also starch. So which basically covers all carbohydrates and plant material. Now, you need to reduce them as much as possible, but you don't need to eliminate them all entirely. There are some that are less problematic than others. Probably consuming a moderate amount of simple starch, like well-cooked white potato, is less problematic than taking a whole bunch of sugar or eating lots and lots of fibrous carbohydrates or fiber supplements or something like that. So you want to really reduce fiber, really reduce sugar, moderately reduce carbs and starch, and essentially, which is basically, I mean, these are all carbohydrates, but starch is the one that humans can break down and utilize. So, and sugar, of course. So you want to reduce it, but you still do want to function on some glucose in your blood, hence consuming starch is acceptable, but just don't overdo it. You can of course function with glucose in your bloodstream by consuming lots of protein, because amino acids can be converted by the liver into glucose by gluconeogenesis, but whatever. So I mean, it's just not it's just that most people, they just don't want to do a carnivore diet. They don't want to eat only meat. And if they have a dysbiosis, then it's very likely they also have some liver issue. So it can be the case that actually you don't feel too great on a purely carnivore diet, at least in the beginning, because the liver probably isn't that good at actually creating glucose out of amino acids, because it's burdened by microbial byproducts. So that covers fermentable substrate. Get rid of basically garden, veg, rabbit food type of things. Get rid of sugar. Eat simple starches and a moderate amount, small to moderate amount. Fruit is okay, so consume fruit when you want to. Now, as for removing inflammatory components from your diet, ones that, of course, these fermentable components I've just talked about are inflammatory because they feed up the microbes which cause an inflammatory response. But there are other foods which are usually they're the common allergens, and they're also, and the reason they're common allergens is because there is some predisposition to having an inflammatory response from them. The ones you want to reduce are the ones you want to eliminate are dairy and wheat. So, pasta, bread, and of course milk and cheese and those things. The dairy isn't just a problem because it has lactose in. That's a problem because it's a fermentable sugar. Dairy is also a problem because of the protein content. So even cheese is a problem. Butter is probably not a problem, actually. But cheese, yogurt, milk, whether that's cow's milk, goat milk, and wheat, so bread, pasta, etc., you want to remove them because they are just very, very likely to be causing some kind of immune response because they are intrinsically pyrogenic or antigenic, essentially. So even if you have no allergy to them, no IgE response to them, and no celiac disease, you can still benefit from eliminating these, and I recommend eliminating them completely. If the idea of eliminating dairy and wheat from your diet makes you think, wow, I won't have anything to eat, then I've got to say that you just have to get real, because I stay in countries where they don't eat those things at all in their diet ever. Never mind people who are intentionally eliminating them and also have the abundance of choice we have in the Western world. They just don't eat them at all. It's just not a feature of their diet. So there are entire cultures who don't eat these things at all. So it's very, very, very easy to eliminate dairy and wheat. So there is no point in discussing like how to kind of adapt this or how to meet you halfway. Just eliminate dairy and wheat completely. Okay. So what do you want to focus on? Well, what you want to focus on is meat, so beef and chicken and so on, and fish, and eggs also. And then, like I say, you can have small amounts of white rice and white potato, and you can have fruit. Just avoid veggies and grains and sources of like fibrous sources of carbohydrates. Okay, it's as simple as that. If you're doing this diet to give Elixir another go, then give the diet approximately 7 days to kick in, and then give Elixir another go.